Get ready for a powerhouse of inspiration. Principal Baruti Kafele. A highly regarded educator and a transformational leader, Principal Kafele has spent over 20 years in New Jersey's urban schools, making a lasting impact as both a master teacher and a turnaround principal. Under his leadership, the mighty Newark Tech transformed from a low-performing school to one of America's best, as recognized by U.S. News and World Report 3 times. A recipient of the prestigious Milken Educator Award, Principal Kafele is one of the most sought-after voices in school leadership and equity. He's delivered over 3,000 keynotes, workshops, and seminars across the nation, authored 13 books, including 7 ASCD bestsellers, and continues to empower leaders through his live-streamed AP and New Principals Academy. Please join us in welcoming the extraordinary Principal Baruti Kafele.
And we are live. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to week 282 consecutively of the AP and New Principals Academy. Let me see who we got checking in this morning. We got Constance Sherrod, Pearl, Mississippi, in the building. Yolanda McKinney is in the building. She said, wow, what a week. Grace Castaneda is in the building she's in Houston this morning, Houston, Texas. And she gave a special shout out to Marsha Poh. It's going to be the first time in a while I haven't seen Marsha Poh's name in the comments because she's here with us live. We got Elisa Rivera in the building. Let's see. Mona Obamolak is in the building. Hey, Mona, do me a favor at some point. Send me an inbox and let me know what you do. What's your title, right? Let me know that. Let's see. In Grace, I think you're assistant principal, but reinforce that for me, please. Just send me an inbox and let me know your title as well. Where we at? Matter of fact, and also where we at? Constance Sherrod, do the same for me. Let me know what your title is. We got Dr. Rachel Edoeket in the building. We got down in Maryland, President, Maryland Association of Elementary School Principals, among other titles. We got Takesha High in the building, Virginia. We got Robin Snowden, Harambe, Bakersfield, California. We got Nadira Coley in the building, Newark, New Jersey. Rodney Richardson, Hampton, Virginia. Marsha's there. Marsha Poh is in the building. He said, good morning, everybody, and can't wait to connect with you today. I'm up early and on fire. We got Nolene Martin is in the building, North Texas. We got Lysandra Brackens is in North Carolina. Michael Benton in Cincinnati, Ohio. Tashika Truesdale is in Atlanta. Chancellor Davis is in Vegas. Stacy Joy, Los Angeles, California, as they say, LA. I don't say LA a lot when I'm on platforms like this because people don't know if you're talking about Louisiana or Los Angeles, right? So I just spell it out, unless you say LA, California. Dot McKeever Jeter, principal, retired principal. Dot McKeever Jeter, Calumet City, Illinois. Man, what an asset she is to all of our platforms. The Fantastic Four. Speaking of such, Sean Hurt dropping nuggets every day, every Saturday, 10 o'clock. Eastern Time, Facebook Live, followed by Create and Educate, dropping nuggets every Saturday morning. Dr. Sheikah Houston, Dr. Tammy Taylor, followed by the AP and New Principals Academy, Principal Kafele, and then on Sunday, Josh Tovar, Dr. Madi Moreno. That's I think he moved it to 7 o'clock Eastern, if I'm not mistaken. 6 o'clock Central, I'm pretty sure. And that's PGP podcast. So the Fantastic Four, Super Saturdays in terms of the 3 on Saturday. And what's that one that Dr. Houston calls Sunday now? What is it? Sensational Sunday or something? I forgot, man. But yeah, it's all 4. So make sure you tune into all 4 of us. We're a team. We got the Queen of the Castle. Kimberly Broughton Kafele is in the building. She said, good morning, everybody. Jacqueline Carter is in the building. Jacqueline, let me know your title. Send me an inbox. Leslie Akintunde, Sterling, Virginia. Principal Tammy Taylor, I should say Dr. Principal Tammy Taylor. She said, hi from South Carolina. Doc McKeever-Jeter's here. We got Edwin Garcia. I got you on my short list, Edwin. I'll probably be reaching out to you within a week, right? So stay tuned. Jacqueline Harriet up there in Nova Scotia. Man, as we get closer to October, I'm like, man, I want to be up there in Nova Scotia with all the homies, man. But I got to miss it this year. You know, I got that big birthday coming up. We got Sean Hurt in the building in Detroit, Michigan. He dropped them nuggets this morning. He was dropping it, man. Folks turning around their schools with the work he does. You know, with all of us, you know, we're not just Saturday morning podcasters, live streamers. You know, we also do this work in a consulting capacity. So reach out to Sean, reach out to Sheikah and Tammy, reach out to Josh and Marty. And then if you got a little bit more room, reach out to Principal Kafele, right? Where we are, Dr. Melissa Jones Chunu. Great post you sent us this morning too. I probably need to go. I should have read the whole thing, but great post. Go to Melissa Jones Chunu's page on Facebook and check out that post she wrote this morning. Where we at? I'm getting ready to get it started, y'all. We got Dr. Roz Gaskins in the building. She's actually one of our guests, but she's here. Dr. Sheikah Houston is in the building. Dr. Jasmine Harris, did you see her last week, y'all? I called her doctor, man. It's coming though. But Jasmine Harris, it's coming, y'all. It's coming. Did you see her last week? If you didn't, then go back to last week's session later on and check it out along with Kenyel Sessions. And I ain't even going to try to pronounce my man's name because, oh my God, let me just move on. My guy, right? So, wait a minute, you said it's your guy. You can't pronounce his name. Made through a monkey wrench at us. We'll work on it. Char Mills is in the building. Hassan Sabri. So I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, Hassan. Is it Sabri or Sabre? Right? I think it's Sabri. South Jersey in the house. Lisa DeBose Walker, got a couple more, and then I'm gonna get it going, y'all. Muriel, no nonsense is in the building. Give me a title, Muriel. I need to know what you do. Right? Send me an inbox. LaKenya Rowland is in the building from Jersey. Principal Otis Kitchen II is here. And I think I'm gonna end it with that one. Let me see. Anybody else I need to like call out? I see my man Anthony Swann, who's with us this morning. But we'll talk about him in a little while. But he said good morning as well. Let me end it right there. And let me formally say to everybody, good morning. Greetings. Welcome to week 282 consecutively of the AP and New Principals Academy. Hey, y'all, how you feeling? How you feeling? I'm feeling good, man. If I can speak for myself, you all know if you've been riding with us for the past few weeks, I took off the month, except for one day, the first day or the first or second day of September, and then the very last day of September 30th, I'll be in Connecticut. But outside of that, I took off, man. I'm getting more sleep than normal. I'm more at peace than normal. You know, it's might be watching a little bit too much cable news, right? But let's push that to the side. I didn't even say that, right? Keep it positive, right? So, but yeah, I'm feeling good, and I'm hoping, and I'm feeling rejuvenated. That's a word I need to throw out there. I'm feeling rejuvenated. So y'all, you can't just in the middle of the year like take off. I get that, but when you do have off, you got to really be off. Right, not you took off, but you still doing your principal thing, your AP thing, your teacher thing, your superintendent thing, your assistant superintendent thing. You got to really be off because you need that rejuvenation. I'm learning that. You know, some of you follow me on social media. I'm going to all these athletic events and all this stuff, and going to a movie today, probably. You know, all that kind of stuff, and just taking it down. You know, you got to so that when I get back out there, I can bring them flames the way that I'm accustomed to bringing them. That's really important. So let's go, y'all. Shout out real quick. You know, even though I haven't been speaking places, I have been speaking. I guess here comes the contradiction to everything I just said, because I've been doing all these podcasts, right? So, but you know, I don't got to get up for that. You know, it's like I knocked out a nice shirt and got on like the sweatpants underneath, right? The no socks underneath, the slippers or the shoes I wear as slippers, I should say, some beat up old shoes, right? So, you know, so shout out to Let's Get Lit podcast, School Leaders Project podcast, WRD Radio in Philadelphia, AccuTrain podcast, Focus Ed podcast with Schoolhouse 302, NASSP webinar for assistant principals. Yeah, I've been, somebody said, well, you sound like you working. But I ain't getting on a plane to get there, man. I just come from the chair over there where I'm watching TV over to this chair and just let it rip. Let me say something to you real quick about that NASSP webinar. I forgot to tell y'all last week, man. Jesus, that I'm doing 3 of them. We did the October. It's all assistant principals. Hopefully somebody on this platform was on with us, but I forgot to announce it on here. But NASSP, National Association of Secondary School Principals, we did the assistant principal, but it was the blueprint session. So if you watched when I did the 3-hour session on the blueprint on this about maybe a month ago, it was a condensed version of the same thing, right? So you didn't miss anything if you didn't see. Now, if you didn't see Devising Your Leadership Blueprint, then go to my YouTube channel, AP and New Principals Academy, and just scroll to where it says Blueprint in the title, Leadership Blueprint. It's like about maybe 4 or 5 sessions back. So just start from the most recent, scroll back just a slight ways. It's where you'll see just me as a thumbnail, as opposed to seeing my guests, and watch that. That blueprint is critically important. Let me say it again. It's critically important. One more time. That blueprint is critically important, right? So take a look at that. So I'll be doing another NASSP seminar, a webinar in October. So I'll let you know about that one in advance. And then we'll do one more in November, right? It's all for assistant principals, right? All right. Welcome to the first timers. Glad you're here. But here's the challenge. If this is, in fact, your first time, guess what that means? You know what it means. You missed 281 sessions. 281. You've missed 5 years of sessions, right? Consecutively. So go to the AP New Principals Academy YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button. Be one of the 24,500 people who subscribe to that channel. Yeah, you heard that right. 24,500 people that subscribe to that channel. That means if we decided to do a AP New Principals Academy live session in Madison Square Garden in New York City, we cannot fit them all in. How about that? We have to do a closed circuit session so they could watch us in a theater somewhere, because they got a theater at Madison Square Garden too, for those of you that may not know that. Right, so they watch us in the theater while the rest of us in the arena, man. I'll be shooting jump shots, man. You know, that meaning the knowledge we gonna kick, right? Man, you acting like you really gonna be in there. I know, right? I got caught up into my own little fantasy for a second. Let's go. So again, go to YouTube, right, and watch them all. The book promo, man. Ooh, you got this yet? Everywhere I go, man. Even those all those webinars and podcasts that I was doing, they be flashing this on the screen, man. I'm like, oh man, God is good. God is good, baby. God is good. Right. So if you don't have a copy yet, what is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise? I gotta ask you, what are you waiting for? This is a must. And it's the author, that's not something the author would typically say. That's something that somebody promoting the author would say, but I ain't got nobody to say that for me. I got to say it for myself. This is a must read. It's a must read if you're in school leadership. It really is, right? But you know something I got away from talking about on this platform? This is the book that accompanies this platform in terms of the AP, right? The principal books, we'll say this for now, but this is not the only one. But I got to start talking about this again, the Assistant Principal 50. In terms of books for assistant principals, I'm just going to say it. I don't care what nobody says. Can't nobody touch this. Because there ain't too many people writing for the assistant principal. They writing for the principal, and the AP is supposed to just take it and apply it to what they do. But that's not always feasible. I wrote this for the AP, specifically for the AP. This for you. If you don't have this, you need it. But if you're a principal and you have an AP, oh man, you need it just as badly as the AP does. But let me go up a couple of notches. If you are the superintendent and you got APs under your watch and they full-time disciplinarians, you might want to invest in this today. Just go to Amazon. Or your assistant superintendent, and you supervise, you evaluate the principals in the schools. But they have APs that work under them who are full-time disciplinarians, lunch duty, bus duty, all that other roll up the sleeve stuff. You might want to get this today. Amazon or ASCD, ASCD.org. Right? I got a whole stack of other books I wrote sitting there, but we're not going to waste time with that now. Let me jump to my monologue right quick. We're going to keep it short. Check out this topic today. Hey, principal, you might lose sleep over this monologue. Let me repeat that. Hey, principal, you might lose sleep over this monologue. That's a different kind of title. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. Hey, principal, put your ear a little closer to the speaker. I'm talking directly to you, and I'm talking to whomever supervises you, right? AP, hear me well. You know, principal, there's this cycle that we've been seeing probably for generations now. And here, let me explain the cycle. Someone is a teacher, and they decide they want to become an administrator. So they become an assistant principal. And their principal was once an assistant principal. Now, this is probably an urban, rural thing more than it is suburban, but it may even be a suburban thing. So just keep your ear to the speaker. So now that AP becomes a principal. But if that principal was being utilized when they were an AP, as a full-time disciplinarian, the lunch duty person, the bus duty person, and all the other things non-instructional, then we have created a generational cycle that seems to have no ending, with the exception of that principal that understands that AP must be well-rounded. But let's go to the ones where that's not happening. So now that principal is utilizing that AP that way because that's all they know. They don't know that their leadership needs to be enhanced exponentially so that ultimately that AP knows exactly the same thing that that principal knows, but not just knowing the same thing, but also is doing the same work. Like they're very much comparable with each other because of the exposure that's being given. But the title here for this monologue, hey, principal, you might lose sleep over this monologue. So let me tell you the part that might keep you tossing and turning. If you and you and you on this call right now, either live or watching the video later, if you're that principal and you have relegated your AP to a full-time disciplinarian, to a full-time lunch duty supervisor, to a full-time bus duty, which is inclusive of going outside before the day is over to get started, or coming in late, waiting for the late buses to arrive, which someone has to do, but I want to lump it in there. Well, let me tell you this, principal. You are doing let me get closer to my camera on this one. You are doing the entire operation a disservice. What do you mean, Kafele? I mean, teachers are suffering because of the way you're using your AP. Children are suffering because of the way you're using your AP. Parents of the children are suffering because of the way you're using your AP. The community outside, the neighborhoods outside are suffering because of the way you're using or utilizing your AP. The world, if that's happening collectively, is suffering because of the way that the AP is being utilized. Principal Kafele, what the heck are you talking about? Let me explain. That AP, depending on how many in the building, for the sake of discussion, let's just have one. That AP supervises half the staff if there's one in the building. If that AP is not serving as that supervisor, but in this regard, as that coach, that instructional coach, that instructional leader of those teachers, then there are youngsters in that classroom, in those classrooms, who are suffering because they're going to class for 180 days out of a school year with a teacher who is uncoached, which is equivalent to an athlete who is on the field and has no coaching, on the diamond, on the court, on the ice, and no coaching. We just say, be great on your raw talent. Show me where that happens. Be great on your raw talent, but no coaching. Like somebody with more experience than me, more knowledge than me, more wisdom than me, that can coach me on my flaws and make me even greater than I am if I have that raw talent. But because I have zero coaching, I'll probably stagnate early in my career. Well, hey, principal, hey, assistant superintendent, hey, superintendent, if that teacher is going a full year with the only time that I have interaction professionally with my administrator is during evaluation season, then I am doing a grave. You hear that word? Grave disservice to every child in that classroom. So what was my title again? Hey, principal, you might lose sleep over this monologue. It is my hope that if you're that person, that yes, you do lose sleep, but then once you wake up, you say, I got to make a shift. I've got to make an adjustment because I believe Principal Kafele was on to something. I'm getting ready to go in there and make changes so that I can be that coach and I can sleep soundly at night. Enough said. Let's go. Let's go. I got guests here, y'all. What we got here in the building? I'm looking at y'all's comments right quick. All right, I see you. I appreciate you. Hey, y'all, let's bring up these guests here. We got where we at? We got long time guests. I'm gonna change that background in a second. And let me change that. Oh, that's ugly. Let me change that. Ooh-wee. There we go. Hey, we got fam in here today, y'all. Good morning. Good morning to the three of you.
Good morning.
Yeah, let me for those of you that don't know what Biggie say, now you know. We got Dr. Roz Gaskins in the building, longtime fam. We got Marsha Poh in the building, longtime fam. We got Anthony Swann in the building, longtime fam. We got all fam today. This is fam. I feel like I'm with family, like my relatives on the AP and new Principal Academy today. Let me read some bios, y'all. We got the short version so we can go through it quickly. We got Anthony Swann, Principal Swann in the building, became the first African-American sitting teacher in Virginia to be appointed to the Board of Education in 2021 by Governor Ralph Northam. You know, as I was reading that, I was reading, but my mind was not on what I was reading. So my mind was, you gonna just keep reading, or you gonna read that part again? That's literally where my mind was, because I already noticed like kind of that part kind of verbatim, right? I'm gonna read it again, y'all. Somebody needs to hear that twice. Anthony Swann became the first African-American sitting teacher in the state of Virginia to be appointed to the Board of Education in 2021 by Governor Ralph Northam. Let me tell y'all something. It's a lot in there, y'all. That is not just a sentence. There's a lot in there. We could do a whole session on that, right? There's a lot in there. So I'm going to keep going. Anthony has been, by the way, I'm going to congratulate him live. Congrats on that. That's big.
Thank you.
Anthony has been in education for 18 years as a classroom teacher, instructional coach, and assistant principal, and now serves as the principal of Meadowview Elementary School. In 2018, he began a program entitled Guys with Ties to teach boys with the importance of honesty, integrity, and character inside and outside of the classroom. He was elected as by his peers to be the teacher of the year at Rocky Mount Elementary in 2020-2021. He was later selected to be the teacher of the year for Franklin County Public Schools for 2020-2021. From there, he was chosen to be the 2021 Region 6 Teacher of the Year for Virginia, as well as 2021 Virginia State Teacher of the Year. Mr. Swann has had the privilege of teaching every elementary grade except kindergarten. His experience also includes 2 years from North Carolina. Mr. Swann earned a bachelor's degree in elementary education from is it Everett University. He later earned a Master of Education in Educational Leadership from Regent University. Mr. Swann and his wife, Jasmine, reside in Roanoke, Virginia. Good stuff, strong stuff. We got another long-time fam one here, Marsha Poh. Usually when I'm reading the name, she's right around the second, third name I read. She's all the way in San Diego, California, right? So got up early. And I'm so glad she did. She's also part of the School Leadership Institute that we do in the summer live, that we do in different parts of the South or wherever we go. We're looking at Chicago perhaps this year, but we'll talk about that another time. Marsha Poh. Marsha's leadership didn't begin in the boardroom or a lecture hall. It began in the real world. One pivotal conversation shared over chocolate chip pancakes and fries in a classic diner sparked a dialogue about purpose, impact, and what it truly means to teach and lead. That moment planted a seed for a future shaped not just by credentials, but by lived experience. Originally from the East Coast and now rooted in Southern California, Marsha brings a rare duality to her leadership. Equal parts heart and hustle, reflection and action. Mm-hmm. Her journey has included supporting diverse communities, building meaningful relationships, and asking big questions about people, progress, and the systems that shape both. It's the real world foundation that gives Marsha her leadership range. She leads with both empathy and precision because she's been in the thick of it. Her insight isn't theoretical, it's personal, practiced, and proven. Marsha earned her BA in biological psychology from the College of Holy Cross in Worcester, Massachusetts, where she also pitched for the Division I softball team. Motivated by a fascination with how the adolescent brain develops and learns, she went on to complete her MED in middle school math and science at Lesley University in partnership with Shady Hill School in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Over the course of 13 years in the classroom, Marsha taught a variety of subjects from 5th grade math to AP biology in both public and private school settings. In 2019, she transitioned into elementary leadership and currently serves as the assistant head of lower school at a pre-K to 12 independent school, where she recently began her 20th year in education. Finally, Marsha is deeply committed to her belief that growth is not a phase, it's a way of life, and she continues to lead with curiosity, reflection, and heart. Outside of work, she enjoys spending time with her husband of 18 years, their 2 children who are students at her school, and their 2 energetic puppies. She's also an enthusiastic baker, board gamer, reader, and dedicated sports fan. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. Dr. Roz Gaskins, I'm gonna be transparent with you guys on Dr. Roz. I had a different guest scheduled for today, but things happened and we couldn't make it happen. So now I didn't have a guest. I need, I always want to have 3. So you got to lean on people that you can lean on sometimes. I hit Dr. Roz up. I'm like, yo, I didn't say it like this, but this is really what it was. It's like, yo, I need you. Could you step in for me? That's not how I said it, but that's essentially what I was saying. She's like, I'm there. That's
what I heard.
Yeah. Because I ain't all proper with that. That. So she's like, and what I heard, because you came for me, like, I'll be honest, you was like, yo, I got you, man. So it's good to have people in your circle that going to take care, because I'm it's like 11th hour and I need another guest, right? So it's like, yeah, okay, we good. Here we go. Dr. Roz Gaskins began her career as an elementary school teacher in a large urban school district in the DMV area, and now serves as the principal of a public charter high school. She is the CEO and founder of the Village Leadership Group, LLC, an educational consulting company that partners with schools to build collaborative teams through leadership, coaching, and developing teachers as leaders. Dr. Gaskins is the author of Set Your Team on Fire. I need to pull it out of this stack of books too. The 3 Elements of Professional Learning Community, a book that equips educators with strategies to strengthen collaboration and leadership in schools. She has also written My Daddy Taught Me Math and My Daddy Taught Me Math and My Daddy Taught Me Math. Coloring. Did I say that right? Okay.
Yeah, it's the coloring book and math practice book.
Okay, coloring and math activity book. Her purpose and commitment remain centered on empowering educators, strengthening schools, and advancing the promise of education for all students. Great stuff, all 3. I appreciate y'all. Let's jump into it. To the fam out there, do me a favor, hit that share button, hit that retweet, hit that repost, hit that like and share. If you're on YouTube, particularly hit that like button. Even if you dislike it, just do me a favor and like it anyway. You here, so you must like something about it. So hit that like button, tag somebody, text somebody, let them Facebook leadership groups know that we are here, we are live, we are ready to go, we are ready to rip, we're ready to bring that fire. Let me start off with Principal Swann. As I read in the bio in that first sentence, you became the first African-American sitting teacher. So you teacher sitting in a classroom, doing that work in the classroom in the state of Virginia to be appointed to the Board of Education in 2021. My question to you, I'm certain that there were many leadership lessons while you sat on that board. Maybe you're still on that board, but particularly during that time while you sat on that board and not yet in leadership, but in the classroom, but learn various different lessons that may have informed your practice as a leader now. If so, what was it that you could think of on the spot right now that stands out that particularly informed your leadership today?
That's a good question. And I would have to say my voice as a teacher. Sitting on that board, I remember the very first 2 meetings that I was sitting on the board, and I looked around the table and I saw all these doctors, and I saw these business owners, and I remember feeling intimidated, like, I don't know if what I have to say, they've been doing this and they're not going to listen to me. And then something just rose within me and kind of pushed me and was like, you're here for a reason. Speak up. And so from that moment, almost every board meeting we would have, when things will come across the table, I would speak up and I would either disagree with it, because I had a different perspective. So you're making decisions for teachers, and you all have never had a teacher on this board. So now I'm going to come at you and advocate for teachers, because I know what it's like. You all have been business owners, you've been farmers, you've been this, you've been that. You have not been in the classroom. And so I had a different lens to challenge those things that came across the desk. And I remember, after challenging a few superintendents, one of them came to me and said, Mr. Swann, I've never been challenged to this extent, but you gave me some perspective to think on, because I never would think about a teacher's perspective, but because you're on this board, it has given me a new look of how I'm going to move forward. And so I would say listening to teacher voice and making sure that you're not intimidated. I don't care what room you're sitting in, to make sure that you advocate for what's right for children.
I love that. And I was just about ready to ask you a follow-up question. And that last line you said to me, I don't need to ask it now, because you the way you worded that when you said listening to teacher voice, I was going to ask you, what is the lesson in that for the fam that's watching today, right? But that is the lesson. The lesson, because we got a leadership audience here, right? So leadership fam. So the lesson is don't lose sight of the teacher's voice, right? Listen to what the teachers have to say, right? Even if we think we know it all, no, you got folks on that staff that know things that we don't know, right?
Right.
I love it. I love it. My follow-up question is simple. I'm gonna ask all three of you this. As a first year, I'm gonna ask you in something like this for each of you. As a first year principal, who is Principal Anthony Swann? Who are you?
I would have to say at this point, as a first year principal, I'm a bridge builder. And the reason why I say that is because I am working at a school that opened just in 2018, and I'm its fifth leader. And so this particular year, my vision is to build the bridge back for my staff, for my children, and for my community stakeholders, because the school has had so much turnover with leadership. It has lost trust in leadership. And so this year, I would have to say that I'm a bridge builder, and I do that um, by starting with my relationships that I am building and making sure that I'm visible and that I'm present. And I'm also not forgetting what it's like to be a teacher, and making sure that I still hear my staff and listen to them, whether if they can come to me and disagree. The key is to listen to your staff, and so that you all can come up with that vision for the children and do what's best for the children. Even if they disagree with the decisions that I made as a principal, I'm still going to hear you, because there are some leaders who will not hear teachers. And so I want to make sure that that's still present, even in my leadership. So I would have to say I'm a bridge builder at this point.
I love it. Bridge builder, and that other piece that you said, never losing, because we all hear it. We all hear it, fam. That at some point, teachers think that we as leaders forgot what it was to be a teacher, right? He's so far removed. She's so far removed, or she acts like she never taught before. You know, all that kind of stuff. We can never lose sight. We need to present ourselves in a way that teachers understand that we understand what that classroom is, right?
Yes.
Great stuff. Let me go to Marsha. Marsha, your bio states that your insight isn't theoretical. It's personal, it's practiced, it's proven. I want to focus on the personal part, because that's something that I talk about all the time. The personal aspect of your leadership. What do you mean when you say that your leadership, when you say it's personal, and that your leadership is personal, and why?
Yeah, well, I first want to say thank you. I have been on this platform for 282 weeks, and some of them not live, which is wildly impressive. And you started in May of 2020.
That's right.
Which was at the end of my first year. And it's certainly, first year in leadership is a journey. And I feel like you came on in a moment where the world and I personally needed that spark. So I sit here today because of this platform, because of the work that you've done and the books you've written. So first of all, I cannot move forward without saying that. You know, when it comes to the personal nature of the work that we do, I had more than a decade in the classroom experience with my youngest taught grades as fifth grade. And when I transitioned into the leadership role, I moved into an elementary role, right? I went down to our lower school, and we are on one campus. So we're pre-K 3 through seniors all together, and we have different parts of campus. So my experience in middle and upper school and high school gave me a really distinct lens. And then I shifted to students that I had never taught in the classroom. And my own children were here in our elementary school when I transitioned down to lower school. So for me, it was more than just growing as a leader. It was more than institutional change. It was taking the time to get to know, where are my own kids developmentally? Where is each child along this journey? And it was all about those relationships, because if I knew the students that I was serving, if I knew the classrooms and the educators, what their needs were, then I could go to work behind the scenes to lay the foundation for everyone else around me to be exceptional, our students and our faculty. So for me, that personal connection is what drives me in the work that I do, because the paperwork and the logistics and the operations is relentless in this work. And that's what fuels my fire every day, and just grounding myself in those personal relationships, because every kid's at a different space. Every educator might be in a different spot along their journey, and getting to know them is what makes this work real.
Yeah, yeah. You know, my second question may have been part of your answer, which is the same question. As a school administrator, who is Marsha Poh?
It always growing. I said it in my bio. I feel like I am just fearless in the pursuit of impact. And in order to do that, I need to adapt to the situations that my school is in, the needs of my students and teachers. And I need to continually grow and add perspective and gain that experience so that I can bring it up in meetings and conversations, and trying to help reflect not only on my own path in education, but helping others grow as well. When I jumped into the leadership role, 7 years ago, I knew I would be in classrooms. I knew I was never going to lose that. I knew I'd be connecting with students, and I didn't really understand the extent to which a lot of the educators around me also needed guidance in their own growth, or the ability to reflect on, how their lessons went. And our teachers are my colleagues. We are our own ecosystem of a classroom where we're going through professional growth and development, and we are students of this world of education just as much as the kids in our classroom are. So if I don't continually pursue that growth, then we become stagnant, and we're not serving kids if we're not growing.
Love it, love it, love it. Great stuff. Let me go to Dr. Roz. Dr. Roz, you got a lot going on. You're first year principal, you're an author, you're a consultant, and just your life overall. In these few short weeks of being a principal for the first time, principal leadership, have you learned anything about yourself as a leader that you may not have known before you stepped into the principalship?
Wow. Well, that's a good question. One of the things that we've said off camera is that it doesn't matter how long you were assistant principal or school leader in any capacity. Once you become a principal, this is a whole new world, right? So one of the things that I'm really learning is how to leverage my strengths. Like, what is my superpower? When you're an assistant principal, your job is to carry out the goals and duties given to you by the principal. So now you're in that seat. Yeah. So now I really have to reflect and get that mirror out, right, Principal Kafele? And really reflect on my own practice, because guess what? I set the tone for the whole building, and really knowing that you have that, responsibility. And so that's what I've really been focusing on, is like, what's my vision for my school, and making sure that I communicate that with my staff. And so I'm learning, again, to tune into those strengths and what is my superpower. And what I'm learning is that, I am a fire starter. You used to say it all the time, I'm on fire.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, I need to get
and my book, Set Your Team on Fire. So that word fire is really important. It's critical. So many people are leaving the profession, teachers, administrators. And so one of my superpowers is really getting people empowered and excited about this work. And it's not easy. So you have to have those courageous conversations. You have to be intentional And you have to coach people, like Marsha said, you have to coach people to grow and get excited about this work. And it's not easy, but I'm learning, again, to leverage my strengths and being intentional about this work, because this is a new world.
New world. Love it. Love it. Love it. You know, one of the things that I didn't share with you all off camera, like I'm ready to transition into our topic now, but I failed to mention, I did the same thing last week. I'm going to throw some questions at you, but I'm not going to call on anybody in particular. Just whomever wants to jump in here, jump in. And if all three want to jump in on these next few questions, then jump on in here. And we'll start it off with, there are so many different interpretations of what it is, of what the assistant principalship is, right? You know, I can move about the country, move about a district, whatever it is, and different people have different perspectives as to what this thing is. So I want to ask anybody that wants to jump in here, from your vantage point, and I might say for the fam, again, our topic, changing the narrative of the assistant principalship. That's all we're talking about for the rest of this session, is the assistant principalship, but in the context of changing the narrative, right? So from your vantage point, I'm not looking for you to give me the scholarly definition, just from your vantage point, what is the assistant principalship to you? What does it mean? Anybody?
I'll jump in. My number one thing that I say, the assistant principalship to me is being number one at being number two.
Woo! I ain't never heard that worded that way. Give me that again.
The assistant principalship to me is being number one at being number two, meaning that you're second in command for the building. However, no one else can do it like me. No one else can bring my perspective and my expertise and my knowledge to the table in order to help lead this building. And so, though it's the principal's building and the principal's vision I'm carrying out, but I'm going to carry it out and serve the way that I serve to make sure that that is executed.
That's powerful. Being number one at being number two. Yeah.
I'd like to build off of what Anthony said, and going back to what Roz said a little bit too. I think, you know, in my time in our lower school, I've had 3 heads or principals that I've worked with. And some of it is thinking about what they bring to the table, their vision, their leadership, like Roz said, and recognizing, what do I need to be for them? And that involves a lot of that self-reflection in terms of who I am as a leader. What strengths do I have? Because I want to be able to support. And what that support looks like is different for different leaders. And it's different at different times of your school with the vision and where you're going. Because when my leader has a vision and we're institutionally aligned, we're not just looking for buy-in, right? We want to be values aligned. And I'm part of that narrative. And some of that means really drilling into, tell me more about where you're going and why, because I may not fully understand it yet, but I have to get there so that when I'm out in our community talking to our students and our parents and members of our community, right, they understand we're all headed in the same direction. And that can be really uncomfortable, I know, for me, because it pushes me out of my comfort zone. And I have to do things every day that make me stretch in a way that sometimes is a little uncomfortable, but also being able to be transparent with your number one and say, this is going to be hard for me and I'm going to give it my best. And then tell me really, like, what do I need to do differently? What worked or what maybe didn't work for you? Because again, my role of being number two is to make your vision come alive, to make our community stronger. And I always say, like, I know I'm doing my job really well if everybody around me is thriving. That's my bar. That's my measure.
Love it. Roz, you want to jump in here, Dr. Roz?
Listen, this is a loaded question. We could talk a whole hour just on
Oh,
this one
yeah,
question.
yeah, yeah. That was me
Yeah,
overzealous. Go ahead.
yes. But just thinking we're all first year principals, but I'm in a unique situation because my APs, they were APs with me as an AP. So it was the three of us rocking and rolling as APs. And so now I'm the principal with the same APs. So now it's like putting on a new pair of shoes. So I know it's uncomfortable for them because, you know, when you're working with a principal and you're rocking and rolling, it becomes comfortable, right? Over years of working with this same principal. And now we have this new principal, even though we know her, we work with her side by side. Now it's a different leadership style, right? And it's my vision, not the old principal. So now we're in this season of really getting to know each other with this new dynamic, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, so it's like, how do we leverage each other's strengths in this new world, right? Where I'm the principal, and they're not carrying out the old principal's vision. And so, you know me, Principal Kefele, I've learned from you that APs are instructional leaders, right? They're not managers. And so because that is my vision for that role, they're getting to learn, what does that look like? What does that mean? You know, Dr. Gaskins keep talking about this instructional leadership, this coaching, this being in the classroom, this curriculum stuff. What is she talking about? Yeah. So now we're in that season of really, like you're saying, transforming the role. What is the narrative? What is the role? And we're building it together and making sure that we're on the same page.
I love it. What is the assistant principalship? That, that's a conversation that will never die. It's an important conversation because imagine we're doing a particular role, we're engaged in a particular role, in this case assistant principalship, but we're not clear on what it is, or as a leadership team we haven't come to a collective mind that this is what this role is, or we've come to this collective mind that is everything counterproductive in terms of what I said in the monologue about being that non-instructional person, right? So it's just it's a conversation that any leadership team needs to have so that we are all on the same page. And shout out to Dr. Tammy Moy Johnson checking in, who the two of us know very well, from the School Leadership Institute with Principal Kefele. I see you, Dr. Moy Johnson, in the building. Let's go to another one. I got a few of these. I consider, as most people that ever heard of me would know, that the assistant principalship is the most misunderstood and underutilized position in all of education. I will take that to my grave. I believe that with every fiber of my being, just based on my experience, right? So, and the reason is obvious, because of the non-instructional aspect of so many assistant principals. I don't want to paint with a broad brush across the board, and some principal is upset with me because they're saying, no, not me. My AP does what I do, and what I do is rooted in instruction, among the other duties of a principal. But I want to ask you all the question, and anybody jump in here. Given that little tagline of mine, the assistant principalship, the most misunderstood and underutilized position in all of education, given that, where in your estimation are we getting the assistant principalship wrong? Where are we getting that wrong in your mind?
I think it would be really easy to use an assistant principal as the doer of the checklist items. And like you have said for ages, those relationships at lunch and getting kids on and off the bus are critically important, but you can't just do the logistics. And I say this with my mirror out, because logistics is my happy place. It's where I feel like I can bring a lot to the table. And I think that when you busy yourself, there's always going to be more to be done. Always. There's something else that you can pour into, one more article you can read, one more email you can write, and that can be all consuming. But recognizing that those hours within the school day, you cannot replicate those at night and on the weekend. So really valuing the time when children are in seats, that you cannot get back. And I think more people, myself included, need to be out in the community during those times. And that can be hard just with the nature of the work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody else want to jump in?
Yes, I would have to totally agree with what she said. One thing that I encourage my AP to do is to get into classrooms, because I cannot lead this building alone. And our ultimate, yes, we have school safety, we want to make sure all that, but our ultimate goal of being the leader of this building is instructional leadership. And the only way we can do that is that we are a part of instruction. Yes, we have the discipline. Yes, we have all those dynamics, the logistics, but we need to be in the classrooms. We need to be learning with the children, so that we'll know how to support the children. We need to uh, co-teach with some of those teachers, jump in the lessons. Even as the principal, I'm in those classrooms. I'm asking the teacher, can I chime in here? And I'm helping the teacher with those lessons. And so it's imperative that we include the assistant principals with the instructional leadership, and not just the principal leading the building instructionally. No, what are your thoughts on this? So asking your assistant principal, what are your thoughts on this instructionally? What is your perspective? Just making sure that they are also valued as an instructional leader in the building is also imperative to help them to grow, to let them know, okay, I'm not just about discipline. The principal don't just want me to do discipline. They want me a part of the instruction. They want me to be part of some of the things that I have to execute instructionally for them building. So just making sure that they are heard and they are valued at that table. And you're not just leaning on your instructional coach. You're leaning on that assistant principal as well, because they are your assistant for a reason. And if something happens to you, they have to be able to step up to lead the building. And so I think it's imperative to make sure that though all those logistics have to happen, you are still present in those classrooms. Even if it's just one classroom a day, you are still in those classrooms, number one, so that you won't lose touch with the classroom. Number two, so that teachers will see you being visible in the building. Number three, so that parents will hear, as well as if they're in your building, see you in classrooms as well. And so I think that those things are imperative for the assistant principalship as well.
A lot of information. Good stuff. Good stuff. Anybody else want to go?
I just want to add, a lot of our APs became APs because they were amazing leaders in the building, right? Or whatever building they were serving in. They wore many hats. And so now when they're in their role of AP, they want to keep some of those hats because they're the ones who could master different tasks. And like you said, logistics, they were great with classroom management, discipline, scheduling, different things that they were in charge of. So one of the things that we don't do is to make sure that we're training up the next set of leaders to take on all of those tasks. We shouldn't always depend on those same individuals to do all of those things. So we need to remove those hats from our AP so that they can get in the classroom. They shouldn't be the only ones dealing with scheduling meetings, IEP meetings, 504s, and bus duty and substitute duty and all of these things. Yes, they're great at it, right? But who else in the building can do all of these other tasks? And that's one of the things that we need to do as leaders, is to train up and coach the next set of leaders in the building.
Love it, love it, love it. I think everybody jumped in here. So let's go to this next one. At the core of the assistant principalship is to assist the principal, not lead the school, right? So I'm not taking the instructional aspect out of the core. I'm just making a distinction between leading the school or assisting the principal. You and I have probably been in schools where those lines got blurred, and there were APs who were functioning as if they were the principal of the building. So my question to you, when we talk about changing the narrative of the assistant principalship, how do we keep those lines from getting blurred between the fact that I am not there to lead as the leader, but I'm there to assist? What do you think, somebody? Or even if you disagree with the premise, I have no issue with that whatsoever. Y'all
All
quiet.
right, I'll jump in.
Go ahead, go ahead.
It's all about making sure that communication, and you're making sure you're communicating your vision, right, as the leader in the building. So as the assistant principal, yes, you're leading as well in your own capacity, but the vision is still the same. And so when people see the APs, they should see the principal, right? But they have their own leadership style, but the vision is the same. Our goals are the same. The narrative is the same. So I think one of the things that we need to do as an admin team is making sure that we can, clearly communicate and articulate that vision, and that we're getting on the same page and saying, okay, now I'm gonna throw you the ball, and you're next up, all of those things, just coaching, conversations, and just making sure you have a strong team is so important. And I want to go back to my three, when we were the three awesome APs, we were strong, and we did that. And so now, like I say, I'm in a new season where we're kind of learning each other and rewriting the narrative and what does it look like. So I'm excited. This school year it's gonna be a challenge, like we talked about before. Yeah. But it's exciting work.
Exciting work.
I would have to say something I learned as an assistant principal is that an assistant principal and a principal's relationship is like a marriage. You can't allow the teachers to mom and dad you. You have to be on the same page. You have to be able to debrief every single day. Even if one of them are out of the building, give me a phone call. Let me let you know what happened in the building today. Or sending an email, hey, we need to carve out some time so we can be on the same page, because if not, then that's where you have the blurred lines, whereas the assistant principal are making these decisions, but you as the principal don't know about it. No. Like any decision you make, I'm going to give you that autonomy and I'm going to let you lead. However, still come back to me, because at the end of the day, this building falls on my shoulders as the principal. And so because the building falls on my shoulders, I need to make sure we're in compliance with policies. I need to make sure that we're in compliance with those logistical things. So when the superintendent comes to me, because they're not going to come to you as the assistant principal, I need to know what's going on in my building. So yes, I'm giving you that autonomy. I'm not micromanaging you, but let's come back. So therefore, sometimes I may need to be able to provide you with some coaching as my assistant principal. Like, no, I don't want that done this way in my building. This is how I see it this way. So let's go back and fix this. So being a partnership, being a team, and not demeaning your assistant principal when they make a mistake. Call them in. Let's fix the mistake. Hey, next time, let's do it this way. I think it'll go better this way, because these things happen. So I think just making sure that the assistant principal and the principal realize that their relationship has to be like a marriage, and there has to be give and take. There has to be compromise where the principal will listen to the assistant principal's idea because it's better, and being able to validate that assistant principal, but still executing as the leader of the building.
Love it.
Can I say something, Principal Kafele?
Yeah.
To add to that, during the Institute, I don't know if you remember, I'm pretty sure you remember, but several principals and assistant principals talked about how the relationship between the admin team members were not strong. And how, I don't know if you remember, but it was like several people mentioning Marsha shaking her head. And we were like, oh my goodness. And, just folks not talking to one another, people not supporting one another. And we had long conversations about that, even talking about that when we went out to dinner. And so, Anthony, you're right. Like it's like a marriage. And if the lines of communication are broken, where you guys are not supporting one another, it trickles down. Just like in a marriage, where if you're in a bad or toxic relationship, it trickles down to your children. Same thing in the school. If the admin team aren't strong, or they're not communicating, supporting one another, then the teacher's going to feel it. Your students are going to feel it. Your parents, the whole community. So again, it's so important. We don't have to be best friends, but we need to be on the same page and making sure we're doing what's right for our students and our teachers in that building.
Let me get your thought. Marsha, did you want to jump in?
I was just going to kind of build and say that oftentimes in that relationship, as an AP, I've never sat in the seat of a principal. So thinking about myself as a sounding board, because oftentimes, principals need to kind of noodle with these thoughts of, I have this vision of where we go, or institutionally, we have priorities that we need to hit. What does that mean for, my division and the elementary lens? What does that mean for middle or upper high school? How are we going to hit those? And some of it means talking through, people have different ways of processing their ideas. And oftentimes, if you can talk through something, then you're able to distill, like, what is the actual, nugget in there that we need to build off of. Or sometimes it means, in preparation for my one-on-ones with my principal, I might come up with 2 or 3 ideas of how are we going to, get this. And at the end of the day, knowing I may not get to decide the path we take, but my contribution is, going through and getting some of the details of what this would look like if we went this direction or that one, or sometimes listening. And my principal might have experience from another school that they're going to bring in an idea I've never even considered before. And it's not that my idea wasn't taken. This is not, I can't take that personally, but thinking that I just grew because I gained perspective. I learned another way to do something. And sometimes it means, hey, that thing you just said, run with it. I need you to go take it, bring it into the classrooms, talk about it in PLCs and our ProGrow, because it's one less thing that principal needs to do. But it is that clear communication, and it takes time to have those conversations.
Yeah, and that's a key word, time. It takes time. Let me throw this at you all. I'm off script now. I get a lot of inboxes. I say that all the time. I get a lot of private inboxes, so things that folks just feel that they can't deal with at work. And the one that comes to mind regarding this conversation is the inbox I get from somebody who says, Principal Kafele, I hear what you're saying about that whole principal, assistant principal dynamic, that whole relationship. And this is an AP speaking now, but I'm AP and I feel a need to lead the school, or I even get this in person during lunch or something, because the principal is really incompetent, right? Or the principal really doesn't know how to connect with staff, really doesn't know how to connect with students. Staff and students gravitate to me, X, Y, and Z. And before I share my thoughts on that, if you're comfortable responding there, because if you're not, then don't, right? What are your thoughts on that when it's a situation where that relationship is not good and the AP feels a need to sort of take over because of what I just explained? And I'll stop there because I don't want to share my thoughts just yet. Anybody feel?
Yeah, I'll jump in.
Mhm.
Though the AP is ambitious and want to lead the school, I would also have to say that you have to kind of be humble enough to realize it's not my building. At the end of the day, this is not my building. So I have to continue to be number one at being number two.
I
And
love it.
how do I support my principal in that aspect? I have transparent conversations with the principal, because the principal can't grow if they don't know. And so you being as a partner with this particular principal that's not leading the building, and the teachers are constantly coming to you, no, can we have a conversation? It may get heated or whatever, but we have to hash this out as leaders. Like, it is my job as your assistant principal to make you look good. And right now, this is what's happening in the building, and I have to make you look good. So I'm going to bring this to you as the principal. Here are some of my strengths to help offset some of these things that I'm receiving feedback on. But I don't want you to be blindsided as the principal, because at the end of the day, this is your building. And so I'm bringing these things to you. Here are some suggestions. Be like conflict resoluted. So when you do bring it to the table, have some solutions in which the principal can reflect on, because in order to be a great leader, you have to realize I'm not always right. And even doing that, you have to be able to listen to the people that you lead. And so you're my leader as your assistant principal. You're my leader as the principal. But at the same time, if I'm the one that has to make you look good, let me tell you what's happening so we can fix it so that you can look good. So I just feel like that you should be able to be bold enough and strong enough to have those behind the scenes conversations where nobody knows what you're hashing out, but at the same time, you're also helping the leader of the building to grow.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Anybody else? Don't feel compelled.
Yeah, I would also ask that person, to reflect on their heart and their mindset. Like you said, Anthony, just you have to humble yourself. And are they allowing those whispers from teachers or even parents to say, "Oh, you could do a better job. Ooh, I don't like the principal because of this." Are they allowing those whispers to pump up their ego so much that they're not allowing themselves to really lead and be in alignment with the principal, because they're listening to all these negative folks in their ear? So they really do need to reflect and humble themselves so they can be supportive and, like he said, be number one and be a number two, because it might be time for them to leave. That's another conversation.
Yeah, but that's
Can I say? I just want to say this too. So
yeah,
even with, I saw one of the comments where not all principals
Yeah.
are receptive. Even with that, it is our job to help each other to grow, right? And the only way you can grow is that you're uncomfortable. And so you may have to have an uncomfortable conversation, even if the principal is not receptive. You still have to be able to get to the principal and say, I know that this is uncomfortable for you, but it is my job to assist you. And the only way I can do that is I have to have this conversation. In addition, I would also say that it's easy for the AP to say, oh, I can do a better job, because they've never been a principal, right? And there is a major difference that I'm learning from my personal experience from being an assistant principal and a principal. There is a major difference.
Yeah.
It's easy for the AP to say, oh, I can lead this building, or easy for anyone else to tell the AP, you can lead this building. But until you sit in the principal seat, you don't know if you can lead the building.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Did you want anything, Marsha?
No, my screen closed randomly, so
that's what happened. Okay.
Jumping out. But the other thing I'd say too is, in sitting in the assistant principalship seat, oftentimes educators will come to you, and this gets back to what Principal Swann was saying before, and have kind of murmurs of, maybe how they're feeling. We all know there are rhythms to the school year where stress levels are higher. This is cyclical. And in my 7th year, we know it's coming. We're not doing our jobs if we're not proactively working to support our teachers. And also recognizing when I need to remove myself from those conversations, because at times it is helpful to go to our leadership team and say, hey, I'm hearing these things, but also recognizing for our team, empowering them to say, what you're feeling is really important. You need to schedule time to share from the I perspective what this looks like and feels like in your classroom, so that I don't become the go-between, right? I never want to go to my principal and say, hey, a lot of people, without, using those names, And I also don't want to use names of teachers and speak on their behalf, because how I'm synthesizing those feelings may not be really accurate, or they might be saying one thing, but there's actually something rooted underneath that. And my principal can have that conversation. My teachers can decide what they're willing to share. And sometimes in this AP role, I find myself where I'm that go-between, and I have to stop and say, are you coming to me because you need someone to listen to you? Or do you want me to help you problem solve? Because what I've learned is oftentimes that problem solving or listening, it's going to become the reflective questions or giving you the next steps, so that I'm not the one solving problems or challenges. I'm helping you to get it yourself. Because that's an awkward role as an AP, when you're getting information from this side and you're getting information from that side and carrying it. It's not healthy in terms of building that trusting relationship. So being very mindful of that, and then reaching back out to teams with next steps.
Wow, good stuff. Good stuff. There's a lot of feedback that I'll typically give that particular administrator, probably more than a lot of the inboxes that I receive, because that's a real delicate issue, sensitive issue, and if they see fit to write me, then let me be thorough. But the thing that stands out for me when I do respond to those is I ask them, are you an aspiring principal? And I would say the proverbial 99.9% of the time, they say, yes, I aspire to become a principal. I say, okay, well, then let's look at it through that lens. You do need that person to write a recommendation, right? So if you burn that bridge and then you go on that interview, and your application has referrals from all these people, all these great people, but not the principal, that raises a red flag. So if for nothing else, that you need that recommendation, that you need that referral from that person, you've got to make that relationship work, right? You got to make it work, because if you come to me for a position, I'm superintendent, I'm assistant super, whomever I am, but you don't reference your immediate supervisor, then I'm going to question that, right? And so will others. So just keep that to the fam out there. Just keep that in mind. Everything that AP Poh, Principal Swann, Principal Dr. Roz Gaskins said, I'm in alignment with it. So keep in mind that referral, that recommendation, which is a better word, that recommendation, it matters. It matters, right? So just keep that in mind as you're navigating that. You got folks leaning on you and looking to you as leader and all those things. Just keep in mind that your relationship has to work somehow if you aspire to become principal one day, right? Good stuff, y'all. Good stuff. I got one more for you, and then we go to your talking points. Professional development for teachers. Theoretically speaking, professional development for teachers is a priority. Like when we talk about the allocation of PD, it's going to be more toward the teachers than anybody else in the district. That's what I mean by that. Doesn't mean that it's sufficient. It just means that those dollars are going to go toward them more than anybody else. But the principal is going to get whatever degree of professional development in-house as well, right? Whatever degree. Might not be the right degree, but to some extent. But the point I'm getting at, the AP. There are some districts, and quite frankly, this is not me boasting. This is just stating what I know. Some districts have created assistant principal PD on the strength of this book, right? So they said, we have this book. We don't normally pull the AP out for professional development, but because of this content and because we're doing a district-wide book study with the APs, we want you to come in and talk to the APs. So I'm saying that to say this, those places where they're not doing that, then the priority could be AP for the teacher, professional learning for the teacher, professional learning for the principal. But the AP may not be getting anything outside of what he or she pursues on their own. I'm not talking about what the district does now. I'm talking about, look, I'm AP. I know I need this and that. So let me pursue it. Let me pay for it with my dime, all that kind of stuff. So my question to you, what are your thoughts on making professional development in those districts where it is not a priority? What are your thoughts on how we prioritize professional development for the assistant principal? Anybody? That might be a little, if it's too loaded for your day job, don't answer it. I'll respond to it myself.
I'm gonna let you go, Marsha.
Okay. I mean, like I said, growth is everything in my world. It is the whole point of being in education when we can nurture kids to be curious and, develop their own passions and understand their own identity, and then take that passion and bring it to the world with purpose. That's where we get impact. And adults are the same. And this, we have kids in our classroom who learn in different ways and may have preferences for how they're working with manipulatives or reading or working in small groups and projects. Adults are the same. And thinking about, yes, funding can be variable and resources come and go, but having those relationships with teachers, faculty, staff, APs, principals alike, and knowing what do you need to grow, and not just taking the book that you read and saying, I blew through it in 3 days, I highlighted it, I took notes, that's great. But what are you doing continually to go back? Because if I read a book on math 3 years ago, I need to know, is it still research aligned? Are there studies that are showing that this is still a good practice? How am I bringing it into the classrooms? How am I evaluating the effectiveness? And then thinking about that reflection and moving forward. I think one of the things, with your books, and I've got the whole stack of them, is you can read those questions quickly, right? You can get through a book pretty fast. But if you take the time to lean into one of those questions, you could think about it for days, right? And it might just be, circling in your mind while you're driving to and from school. It could be that you're journaling or doing sketch notes, writing Post-its to keep around your, computer or your office. I know in one of them, I can't remember if it was on this academy or in one of the books, but you had this phrase like protect your bounce. I mean, this is going back like to when we were in only double digits in terms of episodes.
Both this academy and the assistant principal identity.
Yeah. And to me, that's something that in my first year as an AP, that meant something different than now that I'm in my 7th year. And it's still written on my board at the very top, how I protect my bounce, what I need in that moment. And it has to be this continual process. So for APs, I'd say you might have to be a little more creative in terms of what professional development you have available to you, where you're reaching out, using colleagues that you can also learn from, or institutionally, those who might not necessarily be in the principal seat, but my organization has a CFO. I'm going to go talk to him about budgeting and what that looks like, and line items and how we allocate, things like that, and learn from that. But I have to go back again and again and again.
Something, AP Poh, next Saturday's monologue is going to be protecting your bounce. I haven't thought about that since I said it. And that was years ago. Right. I need to go back into that one. So that's I just wrote it down. That's next week's monologue.
It's your everything, because it's so easy to get deflated. And if it's not toxic positivity, that's not helpful. Things are hard in school sometimes, but knowing what, Dr. Ross said, that fire, you have to be able to connect with your fire, because it is easy to lose your passion. It's
Yeah.
easy to get bogged down, and thinking about what drives you, what makes you ready to lead, and lean into that when it's hard, and soar on that when it's great.
Yeah.
But you've got to keep that bounce.
I love it. I appreciate that. I appreciate the comments too. Good stuff. Anybody else want to jump in on that one? Don't feel compelled.
I'll just have to say too, I remember sitting in the AP seat and looking at the principal go to her principal's meetings and looking at the teachers go to their PDs. And in my brain, I was saying, well, what about me? And so I had to find the PD on my own with your books, Principal Kafele, and just know where my aspirations was to become a principal, and just making sure that I don't forget about me. Like, even though I feel like others may have forgotten about me as an AP, I have to make sure that I pursue that professional growth too. So not just sitting there and not doing anything, but pursuing it myself.
Love it. Love it.
And shout out again to this platform. I discovered you, Principal Kafele, through Black Educators Rock.
Yeah.
So I want to shout out the BER fam,
Right.
OSG, Off School Grounds,
Yeah.
Create and Educate, Sean Hurt, Josh Tovar, Dr. Porter, so many people who are on fire, passionate, excited about this work. And they poured into me when I became a school leader, an assistant principal. So like you said, sometimes we have to seek out our own professional development. And now as a principal, I'm intentional about introducing all these folks to my APs. Principal Kafele, he came to our retreat for our school district, and of course he brought the fire. And so my APs was like, wow, he's amazing. You've been talking about him for years. Exactly. And so now that we're using your book, again, we're going to be using that throughout the year as our book study. Because our focus is on instructional leadership. So you have to be intentional about coaching your APs, right? I said this during the Institute. This seems like it's been a marketing plug for your Institute, Principal Kafele. But during the Institute, I said this. I said we need to coach folks to grow, a coach to go. Coach to grow, a coach to go. And sometimes people hear the coach to go as a negative thing, and it's not. We just have to be intentional about where they're going, right? If they want to stay in your school and be a leader, then you coach them to stay. But if they want to leave and fly and become a principal or whatever it is that they want to do, you need to coach them with that as well. So be intentional. Coaching is always a part of what you have to do as a leader. And you have to be intentional about that. Giving your leaders feedback, coaching, modeling, mentoring, all of that is important. From my bio, that's what I love. I'm a coach, leadership coach, and a strengths coach. So if you're working with me, you're going to receive some coaching.
That's it.
I want to jump in too and add, I think sometimes in leadership, we're looking at teacher retention as a metric of how successful we are with our community and culture. And we don't want to be hiring teachers who don't meet our standards of excellence for teaching and learning, and who aren't good members of our community. And sometimes those aren't the right fit. Mm-hmm. And if you are growing leaders in your classrooms and they are going on to bigger and better things, that is not a negative loss for your community. It actually is a value add. And at our school, we have associate educators with lead educators in each of our divisions. So our classrooms have these educators in them. And, they find themselves in lots of different places on their educational journey. And we don't have a lot of positions that open. It is very unusual for us to hire for a lead teacher position. So if an associate educator is craving that, I don't want them to have to stay in our community and wait years sometimes when they deserve to be an educator in a classroom.
Yep.
So helping them to understand that taking that next step, maybe going beyond our community, can be really scary, and it's what they're ready for. And if I have a teacher who leaves to go on that next step, it's not that we've had a loss in our community. It's that we are growing strong leaders, and we should feel proud of the places that they're going to then impact those communities and cultures of those other schools. And sometimes I think if we just look at that statistic of teacher retention, you miss all of that story.
The three of you are dropping some serious information, some serious knowledge on here. Let's keep it moving. I see what time it is. Let's go to these talking points. Let's see. I'm gonna start off with Principal Swann, and let me just read this for the fam, and then we'll jump into it. Principal Swann, you said assistant principals. That's not the one I want. Wrong one. Here we go. Assistant principals are just as important as the building principal. When I saw that earlier this week, I said, yeah, amen. They are. But what are you telling us with that? Floor is all yours.
I'm saying that though the building falls on the principal can't do the work without the assistant principal. And there are some principals who don't have assistant principals. But if you do have an assistant principal, that assistant principal is just as important as the principal, because it's the assistant principal who does a lot of the behind the scenes stuff to push the principal.
Yeah.
And no assistant principal should ever have to feel like, I'm not going to say anything because the principal never consider my idea. Never consider me as a person, never consider my thoughts instructionally, or never consider anything. So I'm just going to be quiet. I just think that every assistant principal should know that they are just as important. Like every line of communication, majority of all my communications, I put my assistant principal's name on there. And I had another principal to ask me, like, you put your assistant principal's name on it? Yes, because at the end of the day, she's helping me to lead this building.
Yeah.
And so she's just as important as I am.
Yeah. I love that. And sometimes, how you'll hear someone say, like a teacher will say, I'm just a teacher, right? Or an assistant principal will say, I'm just the assistant principal. And I always want to change that mindset that, no, you're more than a just. Right, you're somebody significant here that, quite frankly, we can't do without. And sometimes people don't see themselves that way, and they need someone else like yourself to say to them, no, you're more than just a just. Right, you're somebody that matters, and not only that you matter, your role matters. Right, so when I saw that and said, like I said amen. Assistant principal are just as important as the building principal, because that person has some serious responsibilities. Now, if we go full circle and we talk about the assistant principal who has been relegated to nothing more than engaging in discipline all day with the sprinkling of lunch duty and bus duty, then that person is probably seeing themselves as a just, because they're not engaged in the fullness of school leadership. So that's a assistant principal dynamic that needs to be worked out, right? But yeah, I'm with you. Assistant principal just as important as the building principal. As I always say with my guests, you all feel free to jump in and on any of the talking points of your colleague, right? You don't have to just speak to your own. So if you feel moved to say something about assistant principals are just as important as the building principal, then feel free to jump in on that. Other than that, I'm gonna move on. Here we go. Number 2. Marsha said, AP Poh said, balancing structure and freedom. Just that alone. Let me interrupt this real quick. Just those 4 words alone caught my attention, Marsha. I'm like, balancing structure and freedom, because then I kind of paused and I started thinking, right, and processing, and then I went on. So balancing structure and freedom in educational leadership is essential to creating an environment where both academic excellence and individual growth can flourish. Now, before you go, I can tell you, because this thing just caught my attention in a mighty way. I could write a whole article or blog on that statement. There's just a whole, and I see Anthony shaking his head. It's a whole lot in there, right? So give us what you're giving us.
Yeah, so much of this comes down to my own identity. And growing up, like you said, my background is in math and science. I love that curiosity driven, but also very structured format. And I read a book several years ago, not by Jon Stewart, but it had a quote from him. And, I know him as this comedian, and he does improv, and he's so creative and innovative in the moment, like that spark. And I thought, man, I don't have that. And he said, I think it was, sorry if I misquote him, but creativity comes from limits, not freedom. And he said, knowing the parameters of what can and can't, or having those guardrails, those guidelines, helps him to know what the boundary is and when to cross it, or, what is a big dream and when to dream bigger. And as I mentioned before, my bread and butter is logistics. That's the way my brain thinks. There's nothing that makes me happier than creating a new schedule. Everybody who's at my organization will be laughing right now because we're starting another scheduling committee. And what I find is that in creating a structure, you have to be very clear about your expectations. And it gives people comfort to know that this is what you have to do, right? Very clearly, be very transparent about that. And you do have to layer on the, why we're doing it, to make sure that you have that values alignment. And then give your professionals, your educators who got into this business to change lives, the freedom to do what they do best, because they are in with the kids. And I may pop into classrooms, I may see a whole lesson, I may walk through for a morning meeting, but they're with their kids all the time. And they know what those kids need. And they know, when to stop and add a little humor. They know when to walk back. And if they're always feeling like I have to, be on page 52 of the math lesson and say this exact thing, then we're not honoring their own experience and what they can add to our community. But I think it's a both. I think you need to be very clear from a leadership lens in terms of what you need. And one of the things I'm so grateful for, our associate head of school, she overlooks all of the academics from our pre-K 3 through our 12. She has an institutional lens, Colleen O'Boyle. She works with this teaching and learning team, which is our administrative team, and really defining, what are the qualities of excellence in teaching and learning we expect to see? What are the attributes of high quality student work, so that as leaders, when we go into classrooms, we're looking for similar things, but they're not exact. We know that how you may see in one classroom can look different than another, and that is okay. Not every teacher has to be identical to one another, because kids need different people in their lives. They need those educators. So I think for me, it's leaning into, the structure is the side where I'm most comfortable. The freedom is the side where, I always try to grow. I joined our faculty choir in a way that I am not a singer. You can ask the teacher who stands in front of me at choir that there's a reason I'm in the back row, but it makes me uncomfortable. And our students are in our classrooms doing uncomfortable things every day. We're asking our teachers to add rhythms and routines that make them uncomfortable every day. So we have to push beyond And sometimes when you're in that creative lens, you will actually see something structurally that might have been a blind spot. And to me, that really goes back to a whole conversation on equity. If you don't have great structures in place, the world can become chaotic and you're likely to lose the equity component that kids deserve to have in schools. And if you're not innovative and creative, you don't have the lens by which to evaluate your structures. So it's a both.
You know, it's I'm processing everything you're saying, but the words are also on the screen, Marsha. So I'm staring at the first part, balancing structure and freedom, and I don't want to take this in another direction, so I'll be conscious of that. But that balancing structure and freedom could also be a lifelong pursuit outside of the work that we do, just life.
Mhm.
Like how can I maintain the structure that's necessary, but be free as a bird at the same time?
Mhm.
I think I'm getting there. I almost think I've been there for the longest, right? But I think that as I'm getting older, with number 65 a month away now, I really feel like I'm coming into that balancing of structure, but I'm free.
Mhm.
And the reason I could add the word free without divulging too much is because of let's see, what's the word I want to use, of being intelligent and wise in preparing for now, right? I'll say it that way, right? Be using wisdom, being intelligent, being wise toward preparing for this phase of my life, right? Where I've struck that balance of there's always got to be that structure,
Mhm.
but I feel like a free man at the same time, right? So I'm probably going to write something on this. I put some notes on my paper because I've never seen that written that way. And obviously, I guess everybody on the call, including the three of you, see that this resonates with me because I'm talking about it for a long time. Wife over here probably saying the same thing,
Mhm.
right? So yeah, balancing structure and freedom. That's like a lifelong pursuit, y'all. Because I think, and I'll end it on this note for the fam out there. I think that the ultimate goal in life, even if it's not a conscious goal, is how can I organize my life that ultimately I am a free man or a free woman,
Mhm.
right? Because it's hard to get there. But so that's why I call it a lifelong pursuit. How can I organize, how can I structure my life where I'm free? And I'll leave that right there. I'll leave it right.
I'm going to add a nugget because I'd love to hear in a future monologue or in a future writing that
Okay.
you do. I think there's a lot of parallels to education being bigger than like oneself, and the parallel to not sacrificing one's own identity for unity falls within structure and freedom. How do we provide environments where kids can have that psychological safety to open up and have the freedom to live their best selves? It means that we're preparing students for a lifetime of meaning where they grapple with these things at high levels and they don't just, get in and they're not just like ready for the future. We want them to be prepared, yes. But what we ultimately want is for kids to shape their own future. And I think it falls back to the structure and freedom in a very personal way.
I love it. And by you saying what you just said, the way you couched it dawned upon me as you were speaking why that first part of this resonates with me so well. I didn't even realize it until you said what you said. The word success, as with a whole lot of words in the English language that we use in education, not just jargon, but just words.
Mhm.
I give them my own personal definitions. That's like some of the weird things I do. And the word success, I defined it. And then I started using it with every student assembly that I've ever done after I gave it that definition. So a whole lot. And let me give it to you. Success, the ability to live one's own life on one's own terms, right? So again, success, the ability to live one's own life on one's own terms. And I feel like I'm living my life on my terms. But I don't mean that just in an entrepreneurial sense. When I was a principal, I said I chose to be a principal. And once I got past being a young baby principal and became seasoned principal, and ultimately wound up with a superintendent who saw the world the way I saw it, right? Who allowed me to just spread my wings and fly, then I still met that criteria of living one's own life on one's own terms as a principal, because I was able to lead this public school as if it was a private school, right? So that's the connection between what I just said and that balancing structure and freedom, because I felt going to work, I was still free because of that dynamic, right? I didn't have what I had years prior, which I've talked about on this platform, like I quit my job, right? You know, that was last week's monologue, right? So it wasn't that. So, you know, to the fam out there, y'all know I'm going buck wild on this thing. And so just know that it's because to me, it's the ultimate goal outside of them gates opening up when you make that transition, that you can just live your life on your terms. Be free. That's the ultimate goal. Let's go. So let's jump back into the session now. My wife said hello. She said, but that wasn't meant to be repeated, right? So she didn't say that. Dr. Roz said the power of coaching and feedback. Man, that's a whole book right there.
It is. Well, again, I just want to first go back to Dr. Marsha, who's going to make that.
And Rob, real quick, because someone wrote something. Here it is. Kimberly Williams said, AP Poh, go get you a school.
Yes. I'm here for it. That's what I was basically saying. You know, that's a book title, dissertation title. That's some good stuff. So definitely, and you already have someone, Marsha, Principal Kafele will write your foreword for your book.
Yeah,
at least the first chapter.
I'll do it.
Yes, but again, like I said, I am a coach. That's who I am. I'm a certified strengths coach, Clifton Strengths Finder. People heard of that. So I just believe in the power of coaching, leadership coaching, instructional coach. I was an instructional coach for years, and there's so much power in that. And people say, oh yeah, I coach my teachers, I coach my admin team, but what does that really look like? And you have to be intentional. You have to have scheduled time in your day to really sit down with your admin team, with your teachers, to provide quality coaching. And with that, there's feedback. So that means you have to observe, you have to be in the room, you have to be in those meetings, right? You can't be in your office with the door closed and think that you are a coach and that you're giving people feedback. Because what are you giving them feedback on? Or things that you heard about, or those things what you've seen. No, you have to be in the classrooms. You have to be in those meetings, those PLCs, collaborative planning sessions, and really giving your teacher leaders and your admin team members good quality feedback. And before you have those conversations, those coaching conversations, you have to set intentional, clear goals for their role and for the building. So again, coming together beginning of the school year and describe what is success. You know, what does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like as an AP in this role? What is success? And when we sit down in June, what are we celebrating? You know, what would be your actions in this building that we can celebrate? And then let's backwards map, so we know where we're going, how we're going to get there, how we're going to monitor it, right? What data points are we looking for? And let's be intentional. Let's go ahead, let's open up our Google calendars, let's set in the schedule times, let's send a calendar invite for times that we're going to sit down, monitor the data, talk about these meetings, and really, you know, sit down and think about how do we need to pivot? What are some things that we need to change? And monitor the progress of what we're doing in our buildings and with the leadership. So it's so important. You just can't say you're doing a good job. The building is still standing. It's not on fire. It didn't burn to the ground, so we're doing good. Just like with our students, you just can't put a sticker on their paper and say that was feedback. You have to tell them how to improve, how to get better. Same thing what we have to do with our teachers and our administrators. We have to give quality feedback with specific goals and next steps, and also support. How am I going to support them in their role as a leader in my building? So I'm really big on this. Again, this is the heart of what I do. To me, coaching is teaching. And so I'm always a teacher. I'm always ready to teach and give you feedback and support. And if we're not doing that as principals, then what you doing? You have to build the capacity of your leaders in your building. And in order the only way that you can do that is by being intentional. You're not going to accidentally give them quality feedback. So you have to be strategic and plan it out. Something, again, I don't know why we keep talking about the Institute, but something, a good nugget and takeaway is, you know, teachers have lesson plans. So as a leader, where's your lesson plan? Where's your leadership plan, right? For the day, you have to plan your day. So part of the coaching conversations is to have those reflective conversations. How are you spending your day? And let's talk about it. Let's look at it. How can we revamp it? If 80% of your time is dealing with discipline, we're doing something wrong. So we need to sit back and let's look at that. So again, coaching and feedback is so critical. If you want success at the end, then you need to be intentional about that path and what it looks like. And the only way to get there is to give that ongoing coaching and feedback.
I love it. Now let me be that new AP. Just been in the work for about a month, right? 2 max. And I am the disciplinary guru. This is what I do all day. But I watch the Fantastic Four. And I'm on the call right now.
Yes.
I watch Sean at 10 o'clock. I watch Dr. Sheikah and Dr. Tammy at 10:30. And now I'm watching Principal Kafele, and I'm listening to Dr. Roz, and everything they're saying is the right stuff. But I don't have the time nor the ability to be either, right? To coach or to provide feedback. I don't have it. So this is I'm speaking for this person. So Dr. Roz, I just listened to you. So the person is speaking through me. So talk to me. How do I make what you said my reality? Because right now it is not my reality. I love the classroom. I just stepped out of the classroom last May or June, whatever it was. And now I'm in this AP role and I don't like it. I hate it. I'm frustrated. I'm discouraged. And I've been talking to my spouse about going back into the classroom and relinquishing that huge salary in comparison to what I used to make, because this is not what I signed up for. I know I gave you a lot. Talk to that person. They talking through me because I'm feeling that.
I feel it because I've been there, right? And we've all been there and maybe have been there where we're in a situation where this is not what you signed up for. Yeah. The best thing to do, again, is to have that courageous conversation with your principal, right? You're gonna have to really sit them down, and everything they just said, that you have to say it to that leader, right? Have that conversation and say, and really at the beginning of the school year, when you say yes to that role, you really have to sit down. Well, what does my role mean? Right? You have to have that understanding. I remember when I first became an instructional coach, all of the coaches were advised to sit down with our principals and make sure that we have a coaching contract. What is it that you want our instructional coaches to do in your building? Because each leader is different. If I'm an instructional coach and I'm going from school to school, what I do is going to be different from each school. Same thing with the AP. When I say yes and I sign on the dotted line, now I'm sitting with that principal. All right, what is it that you want me to do? How do you want me to serve the teachers, the students, the parents? What does that look like? But guess what? As an AP, I need to also share my vision for my role. And we need to see how we're going to get on the same page. So if that principal is saying, all I want you to do is discipline, ooh, that's not quite what I was thinking. And this is what I was thinking. What does this look like? And guess what? On Saturday, I'm texting that principal, hey, this person called Principal Gaskins. Let's tune in and let's talk about it on Monday. Let's watch it together. Let's take notes and let's talk about it on Monday. Sometimes you have to be that transparent and say, this is who's pouring into me. This is who I'm listening to. And maybe we can have this conversation. Here's this book. I'm reading this book. I'm reading this article. What you think about it? Let's sit down and let's discuss it. So you just have to be creative and strategic.
Creative.
Can I chime in on
that?
that?
Yeah, absolutely. Love it.
Something I never want to lose is I never want to lose what it's like to be a teacher, because my ultimate dream was to be a teacher. So although I'm in a leadership role, when I have logistical things that are piled up on my desk, I force myself to say, this can wait. I'm getting in the classroom. Mr. Swann, you got a parent phone call. Take a message. I'm in the classroom. Mr. Swann, a parent just showed up. Take a message. I'm in the classroom. So being intentional with my time and making sure that I don't lose that, you still got to get in there, because ultimately your number one job is to lead the building instructionally. And so making sure although you have all those logistical things, it'll get done, but I need to be in the classroom. That's the mentality that I have.
Yeah. Woo. Love it. Since you got the mic, let me let you keep it, and we're gonna go to your next one. You said the assistant principal has a lot to offer instructionally. His or her voice should be valued at the table. What caught my attention, because I know we've been talking a lot about the instructional side, was that second part. His or her voice should be valued at the table. Go ahead and talk to us on that one.
So, transparently speaking on this, that was one of the things that me and my former principal, we didn't clash on it, but I felt like that at one point in time that she was, and we had conversations about this, she wasn't, as receptive of what I had to say or give. And so she was like, Anthony, what is wrong? What is wrong? And so I was able to tell her, like, I feel like I have a lot to give instructionally, and sometimes I feel like you don't listen to me, and that bothers me. And so just knowing that I'm an elementary guru, I know elementary lingo, I know how to build those relationships with the children, I know how to make sure that classes are managed so that teachers can teach. I know all of those things, and so being able to know that you as the AP can share your experiences with the principal, it helps you to feel as the AP, okay, I am valued. I do have some say so in what happens in these classrooms because I can give over to that. And so when I first sat down with my assistant principal, I told my assistant principal, listen, I value what you have to give instructionally. Tell me your experiences. I want them incorporated. If I ever make you feel like I don't value, you need to tell me, because I need to be reflective in that moment, because I need you around this table to help me to lead this school instructionally. So that's what I meant.
Yeah, good stuff. Anybody want to chime in on that one, or should I just keep moving? All right, let me keep moving. Time it's almost 2 hours now. So let me go. Where we at? Number 5 here. Marsha. Hey, Marsha, yours was so long. StreamYard only gives you 200 characters. So I got half of it on the screen, and I got to read the rest of it from my notes. The relentless pursuit of passion. That's my language again. In educational leadership is a defining trait that separates good leaders from truly transformative ones. Now, to the fam, there's another part. It speaks to a deep, unwavering commitment to purpose, a driving force that inspires, sustains, and shapes the culture of a school community. You said a lot. Break it down.
Yeah, I think this is one of the ways that you protect your bounds in my mind. I think passion can come in many different forms in the world of education. It can be personal passion. You bring in something you love outside of school and you make that connection to the content, which brings the content to the real world for kids. It gives it roots it in purpose of why it's important. And you're building that relationship because students are getting to know you outside of school beyond wearing, your educator hat. We are, people who have hobbies outside of school, even though we often do school outside of school.
Mhm.
So, bringing that in, sometimes it's pedagogy. There were plenty of times in the classroom, even within science and math, I was teaching a concept that I didn't love. It just kind of fell flat. It wasn't where I was really interested. And that's when I would really try to drive myself to bring in pedagogy that I knew was solid, that I was passionate about. And, transitioning to lower school, learning a lot about what are best practices in lower school. Is there value in choral reading when we're, trying to be reflective? Can we do this in a reader's theater format to give kids roles and allow them to perform something that they're reading instead of just being passive and listening? And then a lot of it is just the people making those connections. So I think that taking the time to recognize time is so limited in schools, what bucket are you filling in terms of that passion, and then keep going, right? We're always learning more. There's always research coming out. Reading articles, being up with, the books that are coming out, hearing different speakers on the platform here. It has you bring more to conversations to help those around you. And I really think passion's a multiplier. It just, every time you leak a little bit of your passion, your drive and purpose, other people pick up on it. And, Roz and Anthony might have different passions than me, but when I hear someone talk about something that is like consuming for them, it fuels my fire, even if it's something different. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, you that's powerful stuff. When I read it and then subsequent when I listened to you articulate that, the first part, the relentless pursuit of passion in educational leadership. One of the for lack of a better word, disadvantages that I had as a leader. My superintendent at the time that I was a teacher, fifth grade teacher in elementary school, was so on board with the way I did what I did. Everything about me as a teacher was culturally relevant pedagogy. So when I became a principal, which made me the youngest principal in the district, I asked him, could I transfer what I was doing in the classroom to the building level? And he gave me the green light.
Mm-hmm.
So I created something that you wouldn't see in too many places in America. And I don't mean in today's climate. I mean, whatever climate, I was able to create something that came out of my imagination in terms of a school, but rooted in who I was as who I am as a person. So I created this model, and what a joy it was to go to work. When we talk about the relentless pursuit of passion, I was living my passion as a baby principal who was still trying to figure out leadership. But in terms of what we put in place relative to content, I'm living my passion. It will never get better than that, ever. So now, as I go through the years and I got different superintendents, my passion is behind me. no one's going to give me this again in life. I just lucked up on, the universe brought this baby principal and this superintendent together, right? So now I'm reinventing myself, trying to be this thing, but I am so I guess I'm in pursuit of something that I know is not attainable, if that makes sense to you, right? Unless I come across, see, it's not me creating something, it's me lucking up on a superintendent who has the same thinking that I do, so therefore, in the reinventions, I found a niche, as some would say niche, and I was able to live that, but and live it at a high level with pride and all that, the Milken Award, all that. But it will never equate to my first 3 years when I created something that I don't think there was anybody doing that, not the way we did it. College professors in the building, right? Speaking to my kids who were 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and them eating it up, and just, the books we were using, all sorts of stuff. And but that piece that you have on my screen, the relentless pursuit of passion in educational leadership. It makes a lot of sense. And go ahead.
I think it speaks to the journey. So I have something written on my desk. If you don't mind, I'll just read it.
Go ahead.
And I think that's what really speaks to me. It's at La Jolla Country Day, our mascot is Tories. So the Tory Pine. Tories learn to lead with a compass, not a map, because direction determines destination, not intention. With curiosity as their guide and purpose as their power, students grow into individuals who don't just prepare for success, they define it on their own terms. And that is this model, this ethos at our school of, I can't define your success. This goes back to what we were talking before about, you said living one's own life on one's own terms. And I would argue that your experience in the classroom and bringing that program to your school was a guide along that compass that then was able to help you steer in your leadership, and probably brought you to platforms like this and wanting to continue that conversation. Because, again, once you hit that destination point and a map, you're done. And I don't think we're ever done. You should keep exploring. And sometimes when you go down a path, you realize that what you thought you were in pursuit of is actually something different you're searching for. And you meander, and that's okay. And sometimes we meander and we need to steer back to our purpose because we've wandered too far or we've felt lost. And I think a lot of leaders do that. They get caught up in this myriad of all these other things and they've wandered too far from that purpose. So
that's heavy duty. And there's a part of me that said, let's have this conversation. But there's another part that said, I've had these folks on here for 2 hours. Let me keep going, right? Because you just opened up a whole new space, man. So let me keep going. We got Dr. Roz here. She said, building APs as instructional leaders versus managers. I know you touched on that before, but what can you add to it?
Just again, making sure that the APs are intentional about doing that work. Like all of us have said, our APs, they wear a lot of hats, they do a lot of things, but again, those other things are important. But again, if the bulk of their time is being spent doing the logistics and managerial type stuff, then the instruction is not being raised, is not the focus. And again, that's what we're all about. We're instructional leaders, number one. And so that is something that, again, is the part of the ongoing conversation, is how can we improve the curriculum? How can we support our teachers? How can we get in the classroom more? How can we get into collaborative planning? How can we do all of these things more? Because yes, we have to do those other things. We have to go to different meetings that pull us away from the classroom. But again, we always have to go back to how can we spend more time in the classroom, because you can't support teachers if you're not with them and you're not seeing what they see, experiencing what they see, and getting to know the students and the parents. You have to be in the classroom in order to support your teachers.
Love it. Love it. Well, let me bring our attention to what Tammy just said. This is Dr. Principal Tammy Taylor, South Carolina. We're never done searching. I believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, I have my favorite little chair sitting over there, which is where I was just looking, and I sit there and for hours, and particularly during this month-long break I'm on, and I'm in this constant search, like what you gonna do next, and because I've been doing this work for a long time. I've been a speaker for 39 years. But I did it in conjunction with my principalship and my teaching. But I've been holding the microphones for 39 years. As soon as we get to January 1st, 2026, it'll be 40 years that I've been holding these microphones. And my mind keeps saying, so, but what you gonna do next, right? Because I don't know what the next is. I just know that there's a next in me. I got my ideas of the next, but in terms of that thing, I'm really passionate about. So I'm just saying that to reinforce what Tammy is saying, what Dr. Taylor is saying, we're never done searching, right? I don't plan to just sit around. I'm gonna continue to speak, but what's that other thing, right? That's what I'm trying to find. That other thing in addition to, not put the mic down. We gonna always have that mic, right? Always had a microphone, right? But what's that thing in addition that I haven't done yet that I'm going to pursue? That's what I'm trying to find, right? So I'm saying that to share, because I wanted to share that with the fam. We're never done searching. And if you've gotten to a point where you stop searching, then I would only say to you, and it's in your principalship, like you found your path. This is my thing. I don't want nothing else. All right, fine. I'm with you. However, and this is a big however, like capital letters, bold, font, italicized, right? Make sure that within that I found it, that you're growing within it. You can't, like 2025, you can't be 2027 you. Because now you behind. You've stagnated while the world moved forward, right? So even within that thing that you said, I'm gonna ride this out to retirement, you still got to get better and better and better and grow within the work that you're doing, right? Let's go. We're on the last round. Where we at? Number 7. Principal Swann said it's important that the assistant principal works hand in hand with the principal to promote a sense of solidarity when it comes to leadership. Teachers.
So it goes back to the marriage. You have to be able to work hand in hand so that the teachers, so that the students, so that the parents and community stakeholders will not drive a wedge between you two, because if you're not on the same page, there's going to be some hostility. There's going to be some, you're walking around the building on eggshells, and it should never be the case. You should be able to, the AP, your team is supposed to be able to challenge you. Even as a building principal, your AP is supposed to be able to challenge you to the point where it causes for you to reflect on your own practices so that you can lead better. If you have all yes people around your table, you're at the wrong table. You need someone at your table, and that person should be your right-hand person that's going to say, no, let's think about this now. Because my AP, thankfully, she is one who speaks her mind. And she's like, Mr. Swann, let's think about this aspect. You didn't think about this. And that helps me because I'm only one person. So I need that collaboration. I need that solidarity with my AP so that I can make sure I'm leading correctly. Because if I don't, then I'm going to lead the teachers wrong. And ultimately, that's not what I want to do. I'm also learning the difference between my impact versus my intent. And so I can intend to do the right thing, but the impact may be negative. And so in order to make sure that those balance, I need a different perspective, and I need to do that by working closely and collaboratively with my AP.
Love it, love it, love it. Let me put you back up here. So let's delve into it just a little bit, consistent with some of the things I said before. Once again, it's important that the assistant principal works hand in hand with the principal to promote a sense of solidarity, and that's the key word, solidarity, when it comes to leadership. So, you know, let's go back to my inbox and that AP, those APs, and I might add, Principal Swann, it's not just APs that write me about that relationship. It's principals that tell me, that ask me, how do I get rid of this AP that I'm stuck with, right? So whether it be that principal, whether it be that AP, there's a breakdown in that relationship, or situation where the principal, I just got this the other day, but I think it was this week, where the principal had no say in who the AP was. So now this is just someone the superintendent said, let me introduce you to your new AP. And that relationship is rocky because the principal had no say so, right? So talk to us about when these various different scenarios arise, and it's difficult for either me, the AP, or me, the principal, to walk hand in hand with you because I don't really appreciate what you bring.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
That's a good question. I'm in the predicament where my AP was appointed. I didn't get a say so, and so I had different people in my ear, um, other leaders, not in my district, but outside of my district in my ear. But I had to go in with an open mind and have a meeting and say, okay, let me home. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Okay, here are my strengths. Here are my weaknesses. Okay, how are we going to work those things? So, for instance, my AP has never done elementary. However, she has over 20 years of experience with district leadership, with being an AP, with the SPED background. And so I'm looking at, okay, and she's looking at me like, okay, Mr. Swann, I've never done elementary. So teach me here. And I'm looking at her like, okay, I've never had a SPED background. So teach me here. And so having those conversations, not and more than one conversation, setting up that intentional time, making sure that you all are on the same page, and making sure that you are focusing on each other's strengths versus each other's weaknesses, focusing on whether me saying, oh, she was just appointed, I didn't get a chance to choose. No, although she was appointed, lean on her. Find out what she can bring to the table so that you all can work in solidarity and make sure that you're saying the same thing across the board.
I love it. You nailed it. You know, I can give you a bam on that one. You nailed that. Drop here. Drop the mic. let me go to Marsha on this one. Where we at? Marsha is another one. We got some of it on screen, and I got to read the rest. They give me 200 characters on StreamYard. You said the power of intentional reflection and action in educational leadership. Now you know what that one does, right? Mm-hmm. All right. So reflection and action in educational leadership lies in its ability to bridge insight with impact. Mm-hmm. Man, you hitting us with some stuff today, man. You gonna make me stay on here for like 4 hours. So the bridge insight with impact. And then you went on to say, where we at here? What is that? Number 8. Okay. It's not enough for leaders to act decisively or reflect deeply in isolation. Mm-hmm. True progress comes when both are integrated deliberately and consistently. Teachers.
Yeah, I think Dr. Roz was talking about this. Principal Swann was talking about this. You know, Dr. Roz mentioned the word humility over and over again in some of your earlier answers. And I think when people come to me and say, Like, what do you do on Saturday mornings? Like, why do you wake up so early on the West Coast? I characterize this platform as the right mix of affirming that what we all do matters and it is worth the effort, and a gentle little kick in the pants of you should be doing more because the kids deserve it. And I think to your mirror, and I've got one up in my office as well. If you go around feeling great about the initiatives you've done or the metrics your students grew in, that's wonderful. And it's really easy to kind of have this head swell in that area and feel pretty high and mighty on that. And it's not productive because then you're not, leaning forward. It is also very easy to beat yourself up and just say, like, I'm not doing enough. I don't have this skill set. That imposter syndrome is very real when you are a leader in education and thinking about, well, I don't have this degree, or I don't have that credential, or I'm not all these other things. And it has to be that balance. And I think being honest with yourself in a really vulnerable way, being able to open up to those around you. A couple of weeks ago, you talked about, having an accountability buddy and what that means professionally. And sometimes having someone outside of your close circle in school where you can really open up and be honest, because it does matter. And you don't know what your leadership plan is. Like Dr. Roz said, if you haven't reflected on the previous day, how do you know what you need to get better in if you're not willing to look at yourself? And our teachers go through evaluation processes. We're giving feedback to parents and families all the time about how their kids are doing. We're involving them in that conversation. What goals do they have? Where would they like to grow? You have to do that as a leader as well. And, I think that one of the things I found really helpful is having tools to reflect within education, like this platform, like the books, like, just looking at my own goals, but also balancing that with things outside of education. I'm a big believer in the Calm app in terms of meditations, and Jay Shetty does a 7-minute calm every day, and it's this kind of wisdom based, and it really has nothing to do with education. But what I can glean from that and learn about myself as a leader, or what I can pull from that and bring into the world of education, I feel like gives me a little bit more balance. My hope is that I can, be a little bit more balanced in, and having that need to do more and know this does really matter. And it is worth the time I'm putting into it, because it's a lot. It's a lot of night and weekends, and it's a lot of time away from family. And, having that support system outside of school is really helpful in that. And also having someone who can say, turn it off.
Yeah.
It's too late. You need to go do these other things and just put it down. The work will always be there for you tomorrow. And those are hard conversations to have. And they are important.
Yeah. No, well, that's strong stuff. I'm not even going to engage you because you got so much in there. I'm gonna just let it resonate right there. And we'll go to this last one, which was Dr. Roz, and simply leveraging strengths. Might be 2 words, but there's a lot in there.
Yes. So earlier I talked about knowing my superpower, but you also need to know the superpower of your team members. So as APs, what are their strengths? What are their weak areas? Like Principal Anthony said, just knowing your strengths and your weaknesses. So how can we focus more on our strengths, and how can we leverage those strengths to fill in the gaps where we know as a team that, we're struggling in these areas. And all of my admin members, we're as a team, we're achievers. So we get things done. That means that we love checklists. We love being busy, but that's a challenge as well. because we can be so focused on all of these checklists that we're not taking care of our teachers and supporting them where we need to. So again, leveraging our strengths, and that's where we find our joy, right? That's where we are passionate and be on fire, where we can really shine because we're focusing on our strengths and our superpowers. I love building relationships with my parents and my students and teachers. So if I'm stuck in the behind the desk in the office, then I'm burnt out, right? Just doing busy work. But if I'm able to make connections with my teachers and parents and students, then again, I'm filling my bucket and I'm excited about this work. Same thing for my team members. What brings them joy? I need to know that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And what gets them excited and what makes them wake up every morning on fire and ready to do this work? Because if I'm keeping them away from those things, then they will be burnt out. They're going to be stressed and they're not going to be on fire. So I have to leverage their strengths and making sure that they're finding the time to do great work. And that's making sure that their superpower is being utilized in a meaningful way. And so we have to be intentional about that, even if they have to do bus duty. Right? How can they do that on fire? How can they find joy in that? Maybe there's something that they can do where they're asking the students different math questions or getting them excited or play music in the morning as they're greeting the students. But how can you find joy in some of those tasks that you may not be too excited about it? And how can we align those things to our superpower and to our strengths to move this work?
Love it. Love it. Love it. That brings us right to our transition to our rapid fire. Rapid fire, I think the three of you know these are one sentence or even one word, no commas whatsoever. A comma means you've gone too long. I had to sound the buzzer, right? So just give us that one rapid fire. Rapid fire. Here we go. I'm gonna start with we'll go 7, 7, and 7, and then each of us will get the last question. The same question. Starting off with Principal Swann, do you feel that education is currently on the right path for underserved children?
Yes and no.
Do you feel that true equity can occur in America's schools for Black, Brown, and other underserved students?
Yes, if challenged people are receptive.
Does Anthony Swann's work contribute to the progress we desperately need?
Absolutely.
If you could do a reset on your life, would your line of work be different or the same?
It will be the same.
Why do you continue to do this work?
It was always my dream to be an educator.
What fires you up within the work that you do?
Seeing the children every day.
What do you dislike about the work you do?
Sometimes I have to challenge people who are not so open, and it's hard leading adults versus leading children.
Dr. Roz, what has been your greatest victory in the work you do?
I would go back to what Marsha was saying, seeing teachers that I've coached or led, and they're now sitting in leadership positions. So very proud of that.
What was your greatest mistake in the work you do?
Greatest mistake, I would say staying in a position too long.
What has been your greatest challenge in the work you do?
Wow. I would say sometimes coaching up. People know what that means.
Mm-hmm. Are you proud of your first year as an assistant principal?
Yes, definitely.
And this is a different kind of question. Yes. This next one is I ask it every week, but I haven't asked someone who's only been doing it for a few weeks. So let's try it. Are you proud of your first few weeks as a principal?
Yes, I am.
Who inspires you in your work?
I would have to say, I would say two people. My mother, now I need three. My mother, my aunt, who was a teacher for years, and my godmother, who was a teacher for both of them, my aunt and my godmother, for 30 plus years.
Wow.
So they definitely inspired me.
Love it. What book do you recommend for our fam out there this afternoon?
Come on now. What is my value instructionally?
Oh, man.
To the teachers I supervise.
I appreciate you. Marsha, what do you want to accomplish that you have not accomplished yet?
I'll put it into the universe. I might have my lens on some instructional policy, larger scale, at some point in the future.
Are you satisfied with where you are professionally, meaning what you do, where you are, not the location?
Never satisfied, always growing.
Is there another gear to your leadership, or have you reached peak performance?
I feel like you can always level up and keep growing.
What would you say to an AP out there who continues to face closed doors to the principalship?
Take time to reflect and grow in the areas you need to.
What would you say to a leader out there who's lost their leadership passion?
Get into the classrooms, spend time with kids.
What would you say to a leader out there who's lost their leadership confidence?
Find your people.
And lastly, if Marsha Poh was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Always growing.
And lastly, if Anthony Swann was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Resilient.
And lastly, if Dr. Roz Gaskins was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
On fire educator.
There you go. I love it. I love it. I love it. To the fam out there, you are the way we applaud our guests. We use emojis, your favorite emoji, but y'all started, and that's always a good thing. I would never complain about that. But for those who don't, who are unaware, who didn't start, the way we applaud our fam is just give us your favorite emoji. Whatever it is, give us a lot of them, and I'll get mine. This is my favorite emoji, my Louisville Slugger, that the Jefferson County School District gave me when I spoke there to assistant principals. So every time you all came to the plate while I'm wearing my Detroit Stars Negro League jersey, y'all hit it out the park every time, man. Grand slam. Just what my Mets need these days, not the Yankees, but the Mets. That's my team, right? So, good stuff, folks. I applaud you. Job well done. I am most pleased with this session that we had on changing the narrative of the assistant principalship. Tell the folks, because there are folks that probably want to talk to you offline. Even though two of you are not consultants, it may be time to start thinking about that as well. In conjunction with your day job, we wouldn't want to pull you from that. But I'm gonna start with the one who's been doing it for a little while, Dr. Roz Gaskins. How do the folks reach out to you? Do you have your book near you?
I do.
Yeah, I got like my wife hates this, but I got like 7 stacks of books over here, and it's in one of them. We got to get a new bookcase. So yeah, put them books on the screen. Let them know how they can get it.
Yes.
And how they can reach you and follow you, all that good stuff. How they can book
so
you.
on Facebook is Roz Gaskins, also at the Village LG, Facebook and Instagram. But yes, reach out. Again, I love to connect with educators, consultants, just to have a thought partner in this work. So, and then my children's book is My Daddy Taught Me Math. So
good stuff. Good stuff. Let's go to let's go to Marsha. How do they reach out to you, Marsha?
Yeah, I would say email is definitely the best way to reach out to me. I am at La Jolla Country Day School, so it's mpoh, P-O-H, and it's at ljcds.org. And I'd love to set up times to connect with educators, be it phone calls, email, kind of pen pals. I love writing notes, old school notes as well, and even Zoom sessions. I'm connected to a lot of people on the East Coast, and I love growing from real experience that people have had across the country. So yeah, definitely send me emails.
Love it, because you don't have a social media presence, do you?
I used to. I will say I gifted that to myself for my own kind of mental health. I was spending a lot of time, and I needed it at that point in my life. I think I technically still have Twitter and Blue Sky and Instagram accounts. I'm just not on there as much. I put my time in other buckets right now.
I hear you. I might gift myself one day, but because of the kind of work I do, I need it. But sometimes the stuff I see, I'm like, why do I need this? Right. So, but anyway, Principal Swann, Anthony Swann, how do they find you? How do they reach you?
I am on X. That's at 2021 VATOTY.
Say that again, slower.
At 2021 VATOTY. They also can email me. It's 2021 Virginia Teacher of the Year at gmail.com. You spell all of that out. I'm also a collaborative author on the book 6th Grade Ready, and that can be found on Amazon as well.
Oh, yeah. Man, I would have had that. I didn't know that. When did you write that?
2023 and then the 2024 version as well.
Oh, okay. Say that again.
6th Grade Ready. It can be found on Amazon, the 2023 version and the 2024 version.
Very good. Congratulations. Yeah, I had no idea, because normally when I have guests who are authors, I order their books, and that way I have it and I can flash it on the screen and all that kind of stuff. You don't have one near you?
Let me check. I do not have one near me.
Don't worry about it. They got that title. They got the title, and I'll try to put it in my post, my follow-up tomorrow morning when I do my Sunday recap. Other than that, I appreciate the three of you. This was powerful session. Any parting words for the fam before we close out?
Just like to say thank you for having me. I feel privileged. I've always looked up to you ever since I was in the classroom, because I also taught 5th grade, and then just watching your leadership and now being able to be in leadership myself. You're really an inspiration to me as I lead my building. So I appreciate you.
I'm honored by your words, man. I really am. That's the kind of stuff that matters, and that's fuel for my tank. Anytime I hear things like that. So I appreciate you immensely. Anybody don't feel compelled? Anything else for the fam out there before we close out? If not, then we good. Listen here. Let me close us out, but I'm gonna put you all backstage, and I'll bring you back up as soon as I'm finished. Right. So here we go. Hey fam, appreciate you being here again for week 282. So that means that we got 283 next week with Dr. J Saturday, Dr. Marcus Jackson doing his final 4 months with me, September, October, November, December, as we dissect his book, Essential Systems for School Success. If you haven't gotten this book yet, get yourself a copy. This is reason I'm even doing this, is because it's just a dynamite book. And then we'll do a residency with Salome Thomas L with his new book. In fact, if I got it here, let me put it on the screen. Yeah, this is his book, and we'll be doing starting in April. Salome will be with me. Meet their needs and they'll succeed. And Salome will be my guest every last Saturday from April through December. And we will be dissecting this book. And you'll notice that where we at, yours truly, I wrote the forward, right? So, so I believe in this book. So that'll be later. We got so much going on before that. So listen here, y'all. Don't forget, every Saturday morning, Facebook Live, Sean Hurt, 10 o'clock, followed by Create and Educate with Dr. Sheikah Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor, followed by the AP and New Principals Academy. I'm kind of playing with moving it to 11 o'clock. It's a 5-minute difference. That way we can maximize Create and Educate. And if we do, it'll be the 1st of October. So I'm kind of thinking that. So just put that in your calendar. So I don't want you to tune in at 10:55, 56, 57, 58. Oh, he must not be coming on. No, I'm coming on. But I'm trying to move it to 11 o'clock. I'm just trying. So just jot that down, right? Jot that down. But again, Create and Educate is at 10:30, and I just want to, because a lot of you watch all three of us, so I want to maximize their time instead of you leaving early and all that kind of stuff. So that's where my head is right now. And then PGP podcast with Josh Tovar and Dr. Madi Moreno, Sunday at 7 o'clock Eastern, I believe. If that's not right, Josh or Sheikah, correct me. But I think it's 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. Hey, y'all, make sure that you get a copy of What is My Value Instructionally to the Teachers I Supervise. And if you don't have a copy, you can go to Amazon right now, or you can go to ascd.org, ASCD, the 4 letters, that's my publisher, ascd.org. Or you really can go, or you also can go to anywhere that education books are sold. It's pretty much being sold by everybody. But I want to start talking about this one again, the Assistant Principal 50. This is the book that was the foundation to this platform, right? The platform and this book came out at the same time, right? So literally, this book was published in May of 2020, and this platform began May of 2020. So if you don't have this book and you're an assistant principal, you need it. If you're a principal and you have an assistant principal, you need it. If you're an assistant superintendent and you evaluate principals, you need it. If you're the superintendent and of a district and you know you have assistant principals in your district, you need it, right? If you're on the board of education, you need it. If you're a professor or a dean of the education school in a university, right? And you know that you got future APs in the school who will not become APs. They will become they will not become principals. They will probably become APs first, unless they're in an environment where they make that jump, which I'm not in strong agreement with. But if you are that professor or that dean, you need to make this required, right? Let me say it again, because I'm not playing with that. This needs to be required reading at every university in America and beyond. I'm gonna say it again. This book, if you got these graduate students who are going to be assistant principals, right? But learning everything about the principalship, but no AP reading, right? You should make this required reading along with this, right? What is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise? So again, any university out there, any college out there, any junior college out there that has a leadership program. I'm not only suggesting you buy these for yourself to read. I'm suggesting that they be required reading, right? Enough said. Hey y'all, I appreciate you being here. Have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. Peace. Peace. Thumbs up. Cock that fist all the way back. Count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Bam! I see y'all next Saturday at 10:55.